What's going on, guys? MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today I'm really excited to show you this video. I started working on a 1-key clan boss team. Pretty much our clan started working on this as soon as we heard the nerf was coming to Unkillable. Obviously, Revive on Death is the only option here, and there's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. It is very finicky as far as turn meter goes and all of this, so before I get into the video, one really important thing I want to tell you guys is if you are going to try and replicate what I'm doing here today, do not expect the same results. This is extremely gear dependent, extremely difficult, so this isn't going to be like the Man-Eater Painkeeper thing where anyone can do it. So please keep that in mind. I'm definitely going to say this at least 2 more times throughout the video. Don't look at this, say, I have these champions, I have the books in them, I'm going to do this much damage. Without wasting any more time, let's get right into this exciting new comp. So the team I am running today is Septimus, Dracomorph, Crimson Helm, Lightsworn, and Shamrock. Now, as mentioned before, this comp has everything to do with Revive on Death, meaning every time the clan boss kills someone, someone applies a Revive on Death buff, they come back to life. All the speeds are tuned exactly so it can keep cycling the cooldowns. And at the end of the video, I am going to go over all of the individual stats I gave every single champion here. So make sure you watch all the way through. If you enjoy content like this, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. I love doing videos like this. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Check out my past videos. I'm always doing as many cool things as I can figure out here. So let's get right into this and let's see how this works exactly. Now for this specific video, since it's very new to me and I kind of just figured things out, there is quite a bit of setup involved to make this work. For me at least, since I am so new at this, it's kind of stressful, not going to lie. You have to consider things like health to defense ratio balances, affinities. The first time I did test this was on stream in front of all of my awesome viewers on Twitch, and I did test this out in the green affinity, which has the speed decrease, so I can confirm this does work with the annoying decreased speed buff that does pop off on the Spirit Affinity clan boss. Now quickly getting into why I picked the champions I did, Dracomorph is pretty obvious here. You have the defense down weaken, you have the 4 poisons on a 3-turn duration. Now the interesting pick that some people might be looking at is Septimus. We have been testing pretty much damage per minute on double Dracomorph compared to Dracomorph and Septimus. Septimus surprisingly does come out on top, so that is why I am using him in this comp here today. So going over the rundown of this, it's a little bit like the more advanced Unkillable run where the first 3 turns you're pretty much cycling cooldowns, using A1s on all of the Revive on Death champions. Obviously, Dracomorph is debuffing the boss. Septimus is using his A2. Outside of here, the goal, and this is a really important thing to remember, the first AoE, Lightsworn will be going twice, as well as Crimson Helm. The second AoE, everyone goes once. The third AoE, everyone goes once. Why this is important, Crimson Helm has a block damage buff. You do not ever want her block damage buff to be active when an AoE comes into the fold here. That will completely mess up all of the turn meters, all of the speed, so definitely keep that in mind going forward. Make sure she never has a block damage buff unless you're in your setup stage. If you are in the setup stage process of this team composition and you find that you had an unlucky stun somewhere, which is, I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty much a wipe condition if Lightsworn, Shamrock, or Crimson Helm do get stunned, especially if it doesn't kill them. This is why the setup for me was so long. Once I get more comfortable with this, I'm pretty confident I can get this down to a 2-minute manual setup and have the rest of this completely auto. So ideally, we're using Septimus for his attack aura here. We want him to get stunned every single round. So as you can probably tell, I built the lowest health on Septimus and Dracomorph. Now, one thing I definitely could have done to improve the full auto time of this is reduced everyone's health across the board, because this is only possible to manual once the team starts full wiping over and over again and stabilizing their turn meter, so we can start cycling through the revive on death cooldowns. Now, some people may be a little bit interested to know why Shamrock is here. Shamrock has a 3-turn cooldown revive on death if everyone's health is below 50%. That's very important going forward in knowing that once people start wiping, it's the most efficient time to start using Shamrock in the rotation. Outside of that, you want the first turn of Crimson Helm to use the block damage on the first cycle. So the second turn, she gets rid of that debuff. And as mentioned before, Lightsworn will be using his Revive on Death on the second turn. Shamrock will then use his in the second AoE wave, because he does add extra buffs. You do not want Shamrock applying his A3 in the stun round, because he can alter which target gets stunned, and we always want it consistent. So we are in fact using Crimson Helm during the stun round, so everyone has an even 2 buffs, and the clan boss threat is simply based on killable target, defense champion to attack champion, so on and so forth. So you will kind of get to see the process and how I did things as far as gearing when I go over the stats of each champion specifically in the past. I don't have the most ideal gear on all of these champions. Once I do that, I do expect to increase the damage done significantly, especially since I'm pretty sure Crimson Helm and Lightsworn both have suboptimal chest pieces. I think one of them has an HP percent chest, and the other has an attack percent chest. So obviously crit rate, crit damage, everything adds up here. So as we get closer and closer to the setup, you can see on the screen here that I'm pretty much organizing, making sure everyone is taking as much damage as they can, slowly trying to align the cooldowns, because the turn meters do work differently once everyone starts dying, as opposed to just the person getting stunned dying or Dracomorph and Septimus dying to the AoEs early since they have low health. So one important thing to know when trying this comp, don't hit auto too early. Even if you have the cooldowns lined up, you have to make sure all 5 players are dying. It's the safest way to not desync anywhere down the line. Now, optimally, I would like to have everybody in the defense tree so they have the opportunity to counterattack. As you can see right now, I only have Shamrock with that ability. Now that we're getting closer to things on auto, pretty much we're going to see how it works. As we can see, going into the stun round, we had Crimson Helm using the block damage first. Then Lightsworn went, Crimson Helm went again, shedding that buff. Then Lightsworn used his Revive on Death. Moving on to the second AoE, we had A1s across the board with Shamrock using his Revive on Death, applying it to everyone since they are below 50% health. And finally, moving on to the stun round, we have, like I mentioned before, Crimson Helm using her Revive on Death turn, giving everyone an even double buff without the continuous heal that Shamrock provides, which would definitely mess things up. And it's really cool to see someone like Septimus hitting for 300,000 on his A2. Awesome champion. I am so glad the rework went through and they changed all of this. As mentioned before, and what we'll see when I show the gear of the champions, things to focus on since this is going to be a difficult comp to get the most out of, especially with the speed requirements that we're going to go over. 100% crit rate on everybody, as much crit damage as possible. Not going too hardcore with defense, because the longer they survive, the longer it takes to fully auto this. As far as Draco and Septimus, obviously it's free reign there, just build as much damage as possible. As we will see later, I did elect to give both of them Savage gear for this test. It is very hard to get the most value out of Savage gear since you need very specific stats, you need high attack, crit damage, so on and so forth. So for most people, it'll probably be more ideal not to run Savage gear. Just high attack percentage, 100% crit rate, and 260 or above crit damage. Now, I know there are teams like this circulating around already. We've definitely had our eye on this for about 3 weeks now. We haven't seen an auto run yet. There are some people who have put together some impressive teams that are just over the 1 key threshold. They did have to manual for a long time. We have seen times like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. That's definitely not the goal here. When we were working on Unkillable in early October of last year, the goal has always been, while building a team like this, to get highest damage per minute. What I'm going to do now that we've kind of gotten a feel for how this team works and how it constantly resets on the AoEs is I'm going to skip right ahead to the recap. We'll go over that. Then we will start talking about how I gear these champions and what I can do to further improve this, since I am on a very early stage of this kind of composition. Alright guys, so as we can see here, 22 minutes 46 seconds with about a 5 to 6 minute setup time. Not as ideal, like I said before. Once I get comfortable, I can definitely get this down to 3 minutes for sure. So our recap here is 26 million damage from Septimus, Shamrock at 7.9 million, Vigomorph with the impressive 57 million damage, Lightsworn with 12 million damage, and Crimson Helm at 10.6 million damage. Now, one important thing to mention to everyone watching is what we saw last time. Somebody made a video about the auto unkillable comp. It was a lot easier with the Painkeepers and Maneaters, since a pretty decent amount of the community did have access to this. I can't say anything for certain, but it is very likely that this composition does get nerfed. So keep that into consideration if you are going to try and replicate this. I don't think we're going to see a quick nerf if this happens. I would estimate maybe a month and a half down the line, this gets looked at and nerfed as more people start trying this. As mentioned before, definitely don't expect the same results that I am getting from this. I know 114 million is a lot of damage. I'm definitely not close to the turn meter cap here, so I could probably get 130 to 140 million damage a key with this composition, especially once I really fine-tune the gear. But it is very likely that the average player with pretty decent gear still has to be decent. You can't just throw these guys in with no masteries like the Painkeepers, and you can 2-key Ultra Nightmare with the composition like this. I can tell you right now, regardless of the information I've given you, no matter how solid it is, and I pretty much thoroughly explained how to set this rotation up, it is still likely you wipe in the setup phase because of some conditions you overlooked as far as health, defense, different affinities of the boss. If you're using Shamrock and it's a blue affinity, usually it's going to target Septimus. That is the way I built all of this to occur. One major reason why I picked Dracomorph and Septimus is whether it's red affinity, green affinity, or blue affinity, it has a pretty solid chance of always stunning the target you want it to, being Dracomorph or Septimus. That is another reason why I didn't run double Dracomorph, on top of us finding out that 2 Dracomorphs do less damage than a Dracomorph and a Septimus. So with that being said, guys, let's get right into how I gear these champions. As mentioned before, we're going to start with Dracomorph. I did give him Savage gear and Cruel gear. Total stats on this guy are as follows: 28,000 health, 4,500 attack, 194 speed, 103 crit rate, 227 crit damage, 249 accuracy. I did go a little bit low on the accuracy. For those of you who watched me on stream last night, I did have to run a few faction wars, and luckily I did get the precision glyphs, which helped me out a bunch. But ideally I want this at least 10 to 15 higher. Dracomorph is fully skilled, and the masteries I gave him are, as you can see on the screen here. I took your typical War Master. I should not have taken Heart of Glory, and I will probably switch that to Grim Resolve because that will definitely increase the damage that he does. As you can see here, I also took Cycle of Magic for that chance to reset his cooldowns, further applying the debuffs that he has. And pretty basically Master Hexer on top of Sniper, which, as you can imagine, definitely helps out Septimus in extending the debuffs. The next champion we have on the list is our buddy Shamrock. Now Shamrock is a very difficult champion to build, especially damage wise, because he has such low base attack. So So I gave him 2 pieces of Cruel Gear, 2 pieces of Immortal Gear, and I can confirm the healing from Immortal Gear will not affect anything in the run. I was worried at first, but I showed myself that it does in fact not cause any issues going forward. And finally, I gave him 2 pieces of crit damage gear. So let's take a look at the final stats he had. 42,000 health, 3,600 attack, 2,000 defense, 196 speed, 106 crit rate, 260 crit damage, and accuracy and resistance do not matter. As far as the masteries he has probably the most optimal of everyone's masteries. Granted, I did need Cycle of Magic for Draco. This is probably the best route to go. I will have to do more testing, but this is what I feel like will have the most output and damage. As we can see here, I have Grim Resolve, increasing the damage under 50% health. Ruthless Ambush, your typical 8% increased damage on the first hit. It is the most beneficial out of the rest of these, so any increase to damage is good overall. Now, something to look at, he does have Deterrence, which you can see throughout the run. Definitely does proc a lot, increasing his damage. Even if the target is killed from the stun, it still counts as a debuff applied, so it still has a chance to proc Deterrence. Retribution isn't as important. It's more for the earlier stages in the run when you're doing this whole setup process and they're not quite dying yet. This just gives him an added bonus to counterattack for a little bit of extra damage here. Now we have our Knight in Shining Armor, Septimus. Septimus is also wearing a Savage set of gear. He's also wearing a 2-piece speed set. His total stats are 27,000 health, 4,600 attack, 191 speed, 100% crit rate, 242 crit damage, and 250 accuracy. Another champion whose accuracy is a bit lower than I like, but obviously it still works. Now we have the Septimus Mastery Tree. As you can see, I do not have full scrolls on my Septimus. You don't need them. He has your typical one-shot build here with War Master, just like Shamrock. And the only thing that really matters here is Cycle of Magic, as well as the accuracy increase for Septimus. The next champion we have on the list is Lightsworn. Obviously, he is wearing 3 speed sets. Very important because there is a very high speed requirement for him. His total stats are 41,000 health, 3,300 defense, 257 speed, 106 crit rate, 170 crit damage, 161 accuracy. Accuracy doesn't matter. The attack doesn't matter, obviously. The speed is interchangeable. Numbers I tested were 257 to like 262, so there is some play. I would try to follow this video as close as possible because obviously I had the best results with this video. If I do have any updates on the highest key I can do, I will definitely post another video, or you can join my Discord and we can talk about it there. As far as masteries goes, we cannot take Cycle of Magic because he is a Revive on Death champion. So I gave him the pretty basic unkillable / revive on death stats, although he is taking Giant Slayer instead of War Master like the others. Taking Sniper, there was no rhyme or reason to it. He does not need to apply attack down. It's actually better if the champions don't apply attack down. I took this tree simply for Lore of Steel to help me out with the speed requirement. Now the last champion we have on our list is in fact Crimson Helm. As stated before, she is going to be with 6 pieces of speed gear. Total stats Crimson Helm has is 41,000 health, 3,000 defense, 259 speed, 91% critical rate. Obviously 100% would be much more beneficial to me and improve my damage. 136 critical damage, another very low critical damage statistic for a champion like this who is going to be alive for an extended period of time. So all of these little things definitely add up and can help you when trying to push for that 1 or 2 key. The masteries I gave Crimson Helm are in front of you on the screen here. Once again, a typical Revive on Death clan boss way to approach things. The only difference between the normal clan boss is instead of taking Grim Resolve and Ruthless Ambush, you would take Heart of Glory and Life Drinker. Obviously for this comp, we do not want any heals. For here, since accuracy isn't a huge deal, and I probably should have taken this for Lightsworn as well. Don't remember if I did. Is starting with the health there. kind of just burning through all of these accuracy ones. It's very important not to take any turn meter boosting here. And then finally, Lore of Steel is all we really want for this champion. Alright guys, so now that I've gone over all 5 champions, I do want to say that every single champion on this team is fully booked. None of them are missing a single book. You have to make sure all of the revive on death cooldowns are fully booked at least. One thing I do not know and would have to test is Crimson Helm's Vile Tongue. I am not sure how detrimental this will be to your comp if you don't book her with the Crimson Helm. Everything I talked about today was assuming that she had a 3-turn cooldown on Vile Tongue, how to burn that block damage so it is never up and it allows her to die every single round. So if you choose to build this composition and you don't book this and it works out for you, feel free to leave a comment below, reach out to me, let me know what you did so I can help inform other people in my Discord or general people in the community looking for answers on whether or not the 3 or 4 turn cooldown will have a major impact on the rest of this run. Alright guys, once again, thanks a bunch for watching this video. I have a ton of fun making these videos. It really means a lot to me when I'm on Twitch and you guys come by saying, hey, I enjoy your content. I love creating it. I'm glad you enjoy watching it for one. Huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting me on Twitch, viewers on YouTube, and my Patreons who have been doing account takeovers with me. With the money you guys have given me so far, I have been able to purchase a new setup for streaming, which does include a green screen. I know lots of people wanted me to get one. I'm excited to get one. I am moving next week, so after I move, I'm going to have a new setup, so I'm really excited to set that up. I don't have any plans specifically as far as what my next video should be, so if you want to see something in particular, please leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you never miss a video that I drop. And until next time, my friends, peace out.